we can go ahead and get to the first part of my stream, and that is talking about the new casting chat for James Gunn's first official film in the DC universe. That's the film universe, chat. You know, the DCU at this point is, I mean, for all intents and purposes, is dead. You know, I mean, the Flash, I mean, it's been dead really since Man of Steel. It died in the cradle, chat, if you will. But now I think with, you know, with the Flash being such a huge, you know, disappointment for a variety of reasons, in my opinion, you know, we can now look forward to the future. One of the things I am looking forward to is James Gunn's Superman. What the movie itself is being called Superman Legacy. And, you know, Henry Cavill ain't coming back. Amy Adams ain't coming back, nor should they, chat. This is a completely new universe being created by James Gunn and Peter Safran, chat. And I imagine a variety of other filmmakers which will come in and craft a probably a much better film universe than the DCU ever was, or could ever try to be. But the news I want to talk about, yes, is they announced the first two leads of Superman Legacy, and James Gunn has chosen David Cornsweet. I mean, he is, chat, he is, you know, this man is perfect Superman. He's so Kansas, chat. Corn is literally in his name. That was very funny. But James Gunn, he's brought on David Cornsweet as Clark Kent, Kal-El, Superman, and Rachel Brosnan to play Lois Lane. And I'm reading this via Deadline, chat. All right. And apparently this is all the new information that they've been able to get over, you know, whatever period of time. But I guess the test took place. This is in terms of like their screen test, chat, for both actors. The test took place over 2 days with the men. One of the days saw the three actors in full Superman attire. Sources close to the situation said that each actor had closed test deals that expire after 2 business weeks. So specific, chat. So specific. But apparently, chat, the two people that Gunn was most impressed by from their closed screen test was indeed Cornsweet and Brosnan. Now, in regards to David Cornsweet, because I'm not too familiar with the actor, you know, but I realized I actually had seen him in one of my favorite films of last year, chat, which was Ty West Pearl, which is the prequel sequel to X. He played the projectionist. I don't think he got like a name in the movie, but he was the projectionist. I actually thought he was quite good in that movie, but he's also been in other things as well, chat. I think it was in like a Netflix series or something, but even though I'm not too familiar with him, I did really like his role in that film, and I thought, wow, this guy is actually bringing something to it, like a relatively small part to the movie. And I was like, I want to like him. I want to see him in more things. And hey, not bad, Chad. You're getting cast as, you know, one of the greatest superheroes of all time. Now, I'm much more familiar with Rachel Brosnan, where isn't she? She's in that. Oh God, she's in that like hit. Was it Amazon show? I'm trying to remember, Chad. It's the one where, isn't it the Amazing Miss Mabel? I believe that's who it is, Chad. The Marvelous. I was amazing, the Marvelous Miss Mabel, which she's gotten like a lot of Emmy nominations for, and I've seen, I haven't like watched an episode, but I've seen scenes from that show. She's fantastic, and I was very impressed. Like they do, because she's, you know, like she's a stand-up comedian in that series, but you know, it's during a time period where women didn't do stand-up, and that was like frowned upon. That was a thing for the men to do, and I'm like, oh wow, she is perfect for a Lois Lane, because, you know, Lois Lane, she's brash, she's sassy, she's sarcastic, chat. You know, she'll throw elbows around so she can get to the bottom of a story, or make sure that she's the one that gets to the story itself. So I'm like, oh wow, she's absolutely perfect. Very, very excited for her casting, chat. Like, I was like, yeah. I got no complaints, no issues with that at all. So I'm like, oh great. Can't wait to see it. I mean, she probably just like, hey, I do this show. I'm practically Lois Lane anyway. So that to me is great. So far, I feel like, hey, in terms of the casting, it's like, hey, already some really great steps forward. Looks like you're getting some major talent. I mean, David Corn. I think it's also good that you kind of go with a relatively unknown actor of David Cornsweet. Well, I've literally only seen like in one thing, and I think for a lot of people, out that they haven't seen Pearl, probably haven't seen him before. So I think that's good. But I always go back to it, chat. You know, I have a lot of confidence in this project to begin with, based on what James Gunn has described it as being long before these two were cast in the lead roles. of this movie. And where he's like, I want to harken back to the day of like the way he described it. It was just like, yes, this is what it should be. It's very much the Superman that we know. It's truth, justice, in the American way. And the thing that defines Superman in his film is kindness. He's an incredibly kind character, but he lives in the world that thinks kindness is antiquated, that kindness is unnecessary, but he doesn't believe that. I'm just like, that is perfect. That's exactly what I want from Superman, because that's what Superman needs to be. I've said this 1,000 times, chap. One of the biggest reasons why, Zack Snyder's Superman failed so thoroughly is because he never seemed to understand that's what Superman is based on. That whole entire concept is that he's the type of person, despite all this amazing power in the world, he literally, you could describe him as the power of a god. He's the person that will put his hand on your shoulder or embrace you and tells you it's going to be okay. And that's what Superman needs to be. That's what that kind of person with all that power needs to be, he needs to be raised by two amazing parents who teach him to be this moral, upstanding citizen, to care for his common man, even though he's so different from everybody else, but to love them. I'm thinking, yes, that's exactly what you need and want. You don't need fucking, Clark's parents tell him like, maybe you should have let that busload of kids drown, Clark. Maybe that's what you should have been. Or his mom going like, you know what, Clark, be their hero, be their god. It doesn't matter. Fuck him. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, no wonder he's, nearly sociopathic in those movies, chat, and murdering countless innocent people in Man of Steel, knocking over buildings every other, scene in that third act. It's like, no, he can't be that way. And a lot of people say like, well, I don't want a kind Superman. That's boring. It's like, but listen, people that say like that's boring. It's like, was Chris Evans' performance as Steve Rogers' Captain America boring in the MCU? Because that's what they understood. Those writers and those filmmakers. They like, he is a kind individual and he has this, upstanding sense of morality, but he's still interesting. He's still, great to follow in all these movies. And he became one of those popular characters in the MCU. And I'm like, just do the same thing with Superman. Just people to say like, oh, no, he's got to be badass and cool. He's got to like kill, Steppenwolf. He's got to cut his head off and he's got to like snap Zod's neck and he's got to knock over buildings. It's just like, what are you talking about? It's like, no, he doesn't. Like those people, listen, if you like that, hey, that's what you like. I'm not telling you not to like that. I mean, again, it's all subjective. But you can't say that's Superman. That's not Superman. All right, that's the antithesis of Superman. And it seems James Gunn has realized, because everyone's like, why does he bring back Henry Cavill? That's the other thing that's bothered me. People have been saying, like, why doesn't he just bring back Henry Cavill? It's because that fucking Superman is so inherently broken and flawed. Like, I don't even know how to rectify that at this point. Like, I think that's a big part of his thinking. He's not saying the quiet part out loud, and I understand why, because he already has those Snyder cultists breathing down his neck and yelling, and they're going to hate no matter what he does, but he's realized like, I can't work with this type of Superman who is such a high body count, who has constantly murdered people. It's just like, how can you do that? Like, I mean, it would be so difficult. Who's shown no remorse. I mean, maybe little, but relatively like no remorse for his actions. It's like, yeah, you have to do a reboot. You have to do a reboot, and I think it'll be a nice he's establishing the foundation. He's establishing the foundation, much the same way Man of Steel established the crumbling foundation of the DCEU. It's like, hey, let's start with DC's kind of the face of DC, if you will, DC's first hero. A lot of people consider it to be DC's first hero, and go forward with that. And then we can bring all these other characters. Now, I'm not saying like every character needs to be like Superman. They shouldn't be. The other thing I've always said. DC is a rainbow. It's multiple different characters and tones and settings. So you can have your kind of like slice of life Americana Superman movie, right? And then you can have your dark, gritty, detective Batman story. You can have your, cosmic, space opera with like Green Lantern, right? You can do all these things. Your body cosmic horror with like Swamp Thing. It's like, that's what you mean, because then that keeps the genre alive. That's what makes it interesting, because every time you go to the theater, you're just not saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. Because if everything is through that fucking blue-gray filter that Zack Snyder forced everyone to have initially, because some people changed it up, then it's just going to be boring. It's going to be monotonous. And so everything I'm hearing James Gunn describe this movie as being sounds perfect. It's what I want. It's the perfect palate cleanser to 13 really rough years where they failed to do right by the Superman character. And I think, hey, with this casting, starting off with fresh faces, chat, actors are seemingly perfect for the role. I couldn't be more excited for this project. I know this film is going to get a lot of hate, and the thing is, it might not end up even doing all that. I'm very curious to see how this film is going to do commercially. Because again, chat, sadly, a lot of these DC films are going to pay for the sins of the past. People, it's going to take time for people to be won back, and I understand that. So I don't know if this is going to be a huge hit. I think it'll depend on a number of factors. There's a lot of people have been saying like, oh, why isn't The Flash a huge hit? And it's that there's a number of factors as to why I feel like that movie has failed. But I think one of the biggest reasons why is especially like after seeing the film, it's not very good. It's like a thoroughly mediocre movie with like a handful of good moments. So with this upcoming Superman film, I'm hoping that like it's truly great and this has that word of mouth. People go like, no, this is something really special, and I'm hoping it will be. I'm not saying it will. I'm hoping it will be, and I feel like the pieces are being set in place, and it looks like we're going to get just a really thoroughly emotional, wonderful genre superhero film. So, but we'll eventually see. I know it could all be messed up, Chad. We don't know, but I'm hoping for the best. But what about you guys? What's your reaction to this casting of David Cornsweet? I love this. Corn's in the name, Chad. That's a Kansas boy. And Rachel Brosnan. I think this is both great. I have no issues with the casting at all. I hope everyone enjoyed the video, and I want to take the time to tell you about my Patreon, Class in the Glass, which offers hundreds of film commentaries and video reactions to numerous movies, TV shows, and cartoons. If you're a fan of shows like Batman the Animated Series and Avatar The Last Airbender, or films like Aliens and Raiders of the Lost Ark, my Patreon is the platform for you. Currently, I'm doing a subathon to reach 75 subs on the platform. If we hit 75 subs, we'll be able to start voting on the next edited YouTube reaction, which will include actual clips and scenes from the movies and shows I comment over. Choose from such films as Fire and Ice, Masters of the Universe, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, or Spawn. Subscribing at any tier level is appreciated, and feel free to give feedback at any time. Thank you again for watching the video, and see you next time.